Bro, I'm telling you, this episode is absolutely unreal. I guarantee you'll get chills from what's about to go down in this video. The episode kicks off by saying that even though King Cobra's murder was kept on the down low, chaos was inevitable. Our boy Sabo was hanging on by a thread, playing hide and seek like Hansel and Gretel, except instead of breadcrumbs, he was leaving a trail of blood through the forest. Gotta make sure he doesn't lose his way back, right? The royal guards, not dumb at all, started following the trail, thinking he couldn't be far off, but they got juked like they were playing against Ronaldinho, and Sabo managed to shake them off. He remembers King Cobra turning into Pac-Man food and vows to deliver the message to Luffy and Vivy, the one where they learn they're also part of the D clan. As Sabo's trying to make his getaway, the bushes start rustling. He grips his weapon, ready to defend himself, but it's just a rabbit trying to give the dude a heart attack. But Bugs Bunny wasn't the only one lurking, because an actual soldier pops up, trying to catch Sabo from behind. We see some blood splattering, and the big question is, was it Sabo who took the hit, or did he use his epic karate skills to counter the guard? Like, come on, he just escaped 5 Gorosei and an Imu Neurona. It'd be a joke if he went down to a random guard. Meanwhile, back at the palace, Chaka and Pell rush in, and Mr. Cinnamon Roll Hair asks if they found King Cobra. But nope, he hadn't come back from his meeting with the Gorosei, and there wasn't a single sign of Vivy either. So Chaka decides to take another look around the castle while Pell searches from the skies. Our dog Chaka rolls up on some guards who didn't want to let him into the meeting room. He's like, King Cobra's sick, he can't be left alone for too long. Igaram came out with these 2 huge posters of Vivy, asking if anyone's seen her, but nope, no one had any clue where the princess was. Then, in some government elevator, a gentleman offered to escort Count Dracula and Princess Buttface to the port. If we had any doubt about who won that fight, well, here's your answer. Sabo gave that fool a good beating and stole his armor to sneak into the ranks of the royal guards. Down at the port, Wapol was hiding among the crates. Vivy popped out of his mouth like it was just another normal day. Can you even imagine the stench in there? They were almost caught by a marine soldier who heard a noise and was ready to show off his stabby toy. But luck was on royalty's side because a little cat appeared just in time to save their hides. Vivy told Wapol to be more careful, and he snapped back, saying he didn't ask her to tag along, but she shut his big mouth up because the loudmouth was speaking way too loudly. They took advantage of the distracted baggage handlers and slipped into the royal family's crates. Sabo safely brought the king and the princess to the port, and the Marines were like, "Don't worry, we got it from here." Hit him with a, "You're fired," and Sabo started thinking about how to make his own escape. Then he noticed a ship about to set sail, and you could see that sly grin on his face. Vivy managed to hide among the luggage, and the 2 of them infiltrated the ship like a hot knife through butter. The princess said she needed to tell the world what went down in the reverie, but Wapol got all worked up, saying if she did that, the government would blow her brains out. The beach ball was about to turn her over to the Marines, but that would have been dumb as hell because he'd be caught too. And after witnessing the dark side of the government, he knew he was condemned forever. Then he remembered an ace up his sleeve that he was sure would work. He pulled out a communication Dendenmushi, and Vivy's jaw hit the floor. She asked to borrow it, but stingy Wapol said no way, claiming she'd use up all his credit. So he called Big News Morgans. Morgans asked how the reverie went, but Wapol said that wasn't important. The parrot already noticed Wapol was shaking in fear and told him to spill the beans. But Wapol couldn't say anything over the Dendenmushi, or else he'd lose his head. So he asked Morgans to give him shelter in exchange for his story. And do you think that shady journalist would turn down an offer like that? That guy lives for chaos. He asked where they were heading now, and Vivy replied that they were headed to the Kingdom of Iggy's. So Big News Morgans was going to approach the ship, pretending to do some research, while the 2 of them sneak onto his flying vessel. Honestly, you can't even call that thing a ship, right? Morgans was hyped to hear the gossip because if even a king's life was in danger, the story had to be insane. On the ship, Vivy asked what exactly he had seen, but Wapol was like, "You're the last person I'd want to tell." He told her to go back to her people in Alabasta, but the princess replied that it was CP0 who captured her. Even if she returned to her people, they'd just take her away again. Then she begged to use the Dendenmushi phone again because she had to call her dad Cobra. She thought he must be super worried by now. Of course, Wapol freaked out, telling her that's the last thing she should do right now. Back at the reverie, CP0 agents were also showing Vivy's photo to everyone. The celebrity life sure is rough, huh? Bonnie was playing spy while the other slackers were hunting for Sabo. The girl was starving because it had been about 4 24 hours since she last had a slice of pizza, and just like everyone else, she had snuck onto a ship to escape. Meanwhile, Sabo, barely hanging on, had hidden away on the ship bound for Lulusia. He was only thinking about how to meet up with Luffy and Vivy to deliver King Cobra's message. Since walls have ears, it didn't take long for the news of King Cobra's assassination and Princess Vivy's disappearance to spread across the world. Back in the holy land of Mariajois, the 5 elders were sipping tea and chatting. They mentioned how Sabo had a strange fate because he was always surrounded by people with the name D. Then the Dendenmushi rang, and even its eyes were creepy. Imu-sama spoke, saying they wanted to use the mother flame that Vegapunk had invented. The old geezers were also excited to see the power of that little toy. Nusjuro's bald head suggested they should test it on an empty forest instead of the sea, but Imu made it clear they wanted to use it on the kingdom of Lulusia. Egghead mentioned that many people live there, but Imu didn't give a damn, and of course Imu's lapdogs agreed in an instant, because here, if you don't obey, you're just a memory, my friend. Jupiter asks why Imu chose Lulusia, and Imu says it was the closest. This guy must have been a beast on exams, and because he nailed the exact country where the person they most wanted to eliminate was heading. Must have aced a ton of tests. They took advantage of the fact that there were people trying to rebel in Lulusia and used them as an example. Go ahead, rebel against the world government and see if I don't wipe your country off the map. Imu says there's one more request. He also wanted Vivy captured. Could the theory be true that Imu-sama is in Queen Lily's body? And now she's looking for her successor after 800 years. At Marine HQ, a soldier was reporting to boss Akainu. He said there were revolts in both the kingdom of Tajin and the kingdom of Aegis. So that jerk just said to crush each one of them. This guy might as well join the Gorosei cause he's got the same mindset. And these guys really chose the worst ships to sneak onto, huh? Bonnie ended up on King Tajin's ship, Vivy and Wapol on the Aegis ship, and Sabo, of course, chose the worst one, Lulusia's. It's like they're magnets for trouble. The Marines were working at full speed, and Akainu decided to go all out. He called for the Seraphims to handle the situation, but these brats were totally different from the ones at Egghead. This time, there was a Seraphim of the best villain in anime, aka Doflamingo, Gecko Moria's Seraphim, and even crocodiles. Speaking of the devil, our buddy Croc was just making an appearance on an island. The Marines filled him with bullets, but of course, that wasn't gonna work. These Marines are so out of the loop. All Crocodile had to do was spit on the bullets or sprinkle a little water, and the guy would be a joke. But since that wasn't the case, he just whipped up a sandstorm and crushed that whole troop. Back to the present on Rosie Island, Sabo explains that when they arrived in Lulusia, the Vampire King and the butt-faced princess were captured by their own people. Sabo was a complete nobody, but they welcomed him like family. That's when he read the newspaper for the first time and discovered he had been framed for the king's assassination. And that explains why the people of Lulusia saw him as a hero. They hated their kings. He wanted to tell the truth, but stayed quiet because he felt their thirst for revolution. Bello Betty even gave a speech, calling them all trash and asking if they were going to fight or hide like a bunch of cowards. And those who chose to fight joined Sabo in signing up for the Revolutionary Army. He said he couldn't get a secure Dendenmushi, so he couldn't talk to them, but he managed to make a disguised call to warn them he wasn't the one who stabbed King Cobra. During that call, the government intercepted it and thought he was still in Lulusia, but by that time he was already at sea with the new recruits for the army. So an entire kingdom was annihilated, devastated, and obliterated because of one little phone call. Sabo says all the Marines went into panic mode because many of them had left their families in that kingdom. They watched their homeland explode right before their eyes. Dragon asks how it all went down, and Sabo says a huge shadow covered the sky, and in the blink of an eye, everything started to be destroyed. But it was impossible for that to have been natural. There was something incredibly dark flying in the clouds. That's when Ivankov starts talking about Imu. It might just be a coincidence, but among the first 20 monarchs who created this world 800 years ago, there was a king named Saint Imu of the Nerona dynasty. Sabo wasn't following any of this. They knew that in this world there was an ability that could make someone immortal, and if that exists, it's proof that there's someone out there who's never died. So that person could very well be Imu. Sure, it might just be a coincidence that they share the same name as an ancient monarch, but who else would the 5 elders bow to? They're supposed to be the highest authority among the celestial dragons. Ivankov was still on a roll, saying that if that thing that destroyed the country is a government weapon, it could only be Vegapunk's creation. But Dragon says the old man wouldn't create something so destructive. But what if it's an ancient weapon? If Imu is some sort of ancient being, he could easily bring some toys from the past with him. Dragon says that Robin confirmed the existence of these these weapons. But if they really have these weapons, why haven't they used them until now? But if you think things are already intense, you haven't seen what went down in Mariajois yet. A celestial dragon had just been executed, but the world will never know about it. The other celestial dragons said he got what he deserved. They blamed him for why the inferior beings are daring to stand up to royalty. The man who executed him was the champion of an island called God Valley, the supreme commander of the Holy Knights, Garling Figurland, also known to his inner circle as Shanks' father, and the man who was executed, none other than the one who defended the Fishman, the only celestial dragon who wasn't trash, Saint Don Quixote Mioscar. The episode ends with Garling saying that those who defend worms are worse than the worms themselves. Bro, this episode was a spine chiller. We got to see new seraphims in action. The revolutionaries are digging deeper into the shady emu, and that ending, completely insane. Shanks' dad just shanked the only decent celestial dragon. That's a leg breaker, man. Smash that like button because this episode totally earned it. Subscribe to help us hit 1 million subscribers by the end of the year. Thanks so much for watching till the end, and I'm out. Peace.